Diego, how many of you are working in Scrum at the moment? Anybody? Can you hear me?
Okay, Rosa, I think you are on mute.
I'm not.
Oh, okay. So I believe most of you guys would have worked in Scrum. So I can start with the Scrum framework, but before that, so I can provide some recap that we had in the last session. So it's all about Agile principle, and we discussed a detailed version of Agile principles and how we need to be Agile team. So that's what we discussed in the last session. So this session is all about Scrum, very particular to Scrum, and we will be discussing about Scrum values, pillars, and how we work with the Scrum framework. So that will be in detail. Let me share the screen. Just a second. Just need to know. Okay. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes, Oscar.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
Yes, you can.
So today we are going to talk about Scrum. And if anyone have any doubts, you can have the questions immediately. We can have an interactive session. Okay. So no harm in asking questions in. And at the end of the session, we will have another question answer session. So we can maybe you can collect all your questions and you can ask at the end of the session as well. No worries. So at the end of this course, you should be able to understand what is Scrum, understand the roles and events of events and artifacts of Scrum, and know how to get started. That's the objective of this session. Everything we start with Scrum pillars and values. So, the Scrum has got 3 pillars. One is transparency, inspection, and adaptation. The transparency is all about giving visibility, significant aspect of process to those responsible for the outcome. That is nothing but us, the team. We will be having a lot of visibility. Whatever we do as part of the development process, we in the Scrum process, we provide visibility across the platform. Inspection is timely check on the progress towards the sprint goal to detect undesirable variance. So that means there is a certain commitment that we do as part of the Scrum the sprint. And we always commit to the deliverables, right? So we always look after the changes, variance, difficulties. Those kind of elements will be inspected at the end of the sprint. So that's how we do. This is also an important pillar of Scrum. Adaptation, when you have got some insight about the variance or changes difficulties, we always try to adapt to the next level to make some changes for the betterment. So that's again, adjusting a process as soon as possible to minimize any further deviation or issues. These 3 are the main important pillars of Scrum. That's the only 3 things that we have. And the Scrum values are on the right. You have courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. These are the Scrum values. For a definition, it's a lightweight software development framework which helps teams to focus on the values. It consists of rules, values, events, artifacts. It's quite simple to understand, but difficult to master. That's basically, we have to have a mindset to follow that, but it's sometimes very difficult to follow the process aligned across the platform. But once you practice more and more, it is actually easier to adapt. From the last session, we went through the overview of Scrum and the Agile principles as well. So I will go through it again with the Scrum overview. So basically, this is a glance. This is a overview of, you can take a look at the picture and see how it works. That perfectly diagrammed. The first step is actually product backlog. So when we have a team, so we always work with the release cycle, right? So we will always try to create more product backlog and put it in place. It can be, large number of items that is ready for the delivery. Not the delivery, it's ready for development. So that means it can be bigger in size, the smaller in size. Maybe it is ready for development, maybe it is not ready for development. So it can be in any sort of size, any sort of requirement. So that's how it does start. It can be created by the product owners or any business product managers. That will be planned on upfront, as you guys might have come across the product backlogs. Once the product backlog is in place, we always pull that into the sprint planning meetings so that we will be able to get an opportunity to plan those items as part of a sprint commitment. Let's say we have got a sprint planning meeting and we pull a couple of product backlog item and put it in the sprint, and then we will plan it, right? Planning in the sense we can go through the feature, understand the requirement, and try to put it in place as okay, this can be delivered within a couple of weeks. That is basically when you plan, you break out all the tasks into small pieces, and then you put it in the sprint. So as much as you can, we do the planning and put it in the sprint based on your capacity. Again, the sprint can go from 1 week to 4 weeks. That depends. Some organization, follow 2-week sprint. Some organization follow 3-week sprint, 4 weeks. Depends. That depends upon the organization style and standards. But mostly, it is preferable to have 2-week sprint. Most of the companies follow. That's a study site. And once you get into the sprint, so we have different meetings. That is one of the main meetings is daily Scrum meetings, as you guys might have heard about it, or some people might have worked on it in such a way, attending daily Scrum meetings, sprint reviews, sprint retrospectives. So we start with planning, and then on daily basis we will have this daily Scrum meetings. And at the end of the sprint, we will review the sprint, what actually we have been working on and how it went. And then once the work is finished, then we go for the sprint retrospective to inspect and check how we can improve for the next level. So this is an overview of Scrum. Looks like very simple, right? So when you actually work on each and every layer, so it has got aspects, different perspective. You will be working with different people, so everyone should have the same mindset to work it out and give the betterment for this process. So when you get used to it, it will be easy to follow through. So nothing to think much. This is the basic and very basic things that we need to follow in Scrum. Any questions? I guess, no, I can go
Yes, so
next.
far good.
Okay, good. So when you enter into the Scrum framework, so we work as a team, right? So we work as a team, and we have got 3 different team members. So one, I can say that, the title as product owners, development team, and Scrum Master. So these are the main things. The product owner is mainly into requirement gathering, prioritization. So you get more detailed information about the requirement. And he can present what actually have to be developed for a couple of sprints, or what is the vision of our team, what is the vision of the product. So that level of information can be provided by the product owners. Logically, he is the responsible person for maximizing the value of the product and work of the team. And for managing the product backlog, including clearly expressing product backlog items, ordering the items to best achieve goals and mission, representing the desires of the stakeholders in the product backlog, ensuring that the product backlog is visible for the team, showing what Scrum team will work on next, ensuring the team understand the items to the level needed. That means, precisely, more clearly, it should be understandable for the development team. Coming to the next, so we have got development team. As I know, Wasim and we all are working as a tester. So we are also part of development team. So there is no difference that I'm a developer, tester. We all consider us development team. You can take any role. There's no harm in taking any kind of role within the team, but we always consider us development team. So we are responsible for delivering a potential shippable increment of done product at the end of each sprint. That means we have to deliver a product that should be a functional one. That's called done. So as a tester, we need to make sure the deliver item is done and it's functionally, and it can be functionally work in the production. So that's how we make it as a delivery. Okay, so we confirm as a tester, we finish the end process like testing and put it in production. That's how we need to do it. That's our responsibility. So as you see here, our roles and responsibility. And the team development team is self-organizing its work. So nobody is actually going to provide you, guidance, because already the process itself actually a guide, and we can follow without any other hierarchical, guidance. Let's say we don't want any kind of a project management coming in and guide what we need to do. But as part of our commitment, we can follow what needs to be done as part of the sprint commitment. So that's why we have to be a little self-organized in the work. For an example, if you have got a user story, you guys need to create whatever the test plan. If you wanted to create test scenarios, where you need to create if you wanted to have a test environment, so it's all our responsibility to go find and get it done. So whenever it's committed as a sprint commitment, it's our responsibility to make it possible and deliver. And it's the development team is cross-functional with all of the skill as team necessary to create a product and increment. This is actually a good point. We always think that, okay, tester is tester, developer is developer. Yes, we are supposed to collaborate with each and everyone and make it cross-functional. You can put your hands everywhere, like, okay, give some inputs to the developer, get some inputs from the developer, so that can be give and take. So we have to increase our skills in every aspect. That's how a development team in Scrum should work. May have specialized skills in areas of focus, but accountability belongs to the development team as a whole. So when you have a sprint commitment, that's not the deliverable is actually our commitment to deliver the things. So you always need to have a mindset that, okay, this is the team's responsibility. So we are committing, and then we have to deliver. That's how it goes. And decide on how many product backlog items can be selected for an upcoming sprint, because we are going to work, so we know how much we can commit. Let's say, how do you commit? It's based on how much velocity is ours, and based on the velocity, we can commit the sprint commitment. So I will cover up the velocity in the upcoming slide, but we commit the product backlog items for the sprint based on our velocity. And once product owners set their priority, and we can pull as much as possible, we can deliver as part of the current sprint. The Scrum team can have 3 to 9 members, which is the ideal number, and dedicate for 100% of their time to their team. Sometimes there are shared resource between 2 teams, but it's not sometimes advisable, because we as a Scrum as a Scrum guide, it recommends not to switch tasks, because it's actually having waste of time. So that's why it is recommending to have a dedicated team member in a team. And it's always better to stay together for a long time and co-locate. So that means we get along, more collaboration, staying together. We'll have one motive, one goal, and one single commitment to achieve the goal. So overall, as a tester, you can consider you work with the development team, and you will be having some peers as a developer or a designer, whoever it is, as part of who is part of the development. The other role is Scrum Master. So he is a leader, server leader. He can't be a manager. It's not manager. We particularly say the servant leader, who can remove the impediments to the team and progress. So whenever there is a challenge, you can't really get away from that. Talk to the Scrum Master and get it done, because we have committed the sprint with certain list of items. That means the impediments can be taken care of the Scrum Master to sort it out and get the things done. And the Scrum Master can coach the team in self-organization and cross-functional. So it's more into coaching the team and guiding the team how they need to do it, how they need to tackle the things. So those coaching is done by the Scrum Master, helping the teams to create high value and high quality products. So our intention and the Scrum framework is to create a highly valued product and high quality product. So that's the main intention of every organization, and that's what the Scrum framework is also trying to put in place. So we need to understand those lines, and the Scrum Master's main responsibility is to help the team to achieve that. And the Scrum Master can facilitate Scrum events and as requested or needed. Sometimes self-organized team can facilitate their own meetings. I've seen teams, they stand up without a Scrum Master sometimes, because they can solve their problems within themselves. And there will be some volunteers to go around and check how they can sort out the implements. But it's always recommended to have a Scrum Master, because he can take care of the things, and the devs and testers, whoever is part of development team, can work on the real task. And also, The Scrum Master is to ensure the product owners know how to arrange a product backlog to maximize the value. So he or she will be supporting the product owners to refine the product backlogs or the requirements, whatever, which is part of the product. It can be a user story, it can be a feature, it can be a epic, whatever it is. The Scrum Master can help the product owners to put in place to maximize the value. The next one is leading and coaching the organization in Scrum adoption. So sometimes in our organization, they wanted to follow the Scrum across the team so they can educate or coach the other teams across the organization. Collaborates with other Scrum Masters. That's again, learning things, put it in place so that the total herd can follow the same practices. That's the roles and responsibility. Hope it is very clear. Moving to the next, the product backlog refinement. As we discussed in the overview, we can see the product backlog items, right? So whenever there is a plan in place for a particular feature or a particular project. So we start with the product backlog refinement. How it is refined, the product backlog can be epic. Let's say it's a huge chunk of work. Let's say we are going to start our application, and that is going to deal with several features. So that's how it starts, and then we have to find how it can fit in within a sprint cycle, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So that's the intention to refine the product backlog. And when it is huge, so it's really huge. You can't really put or accommodate within a sprint cycle. So that's why we always try to break down into small pieces. So we start with medium pieces, and then we start it into refine into small pieces. So it's again, this product owner can collaborate with the team to add more details. Sometimes the product owner might not get all the details upfront, so he can collaborate with the team or architects, whoever having good visibility or idea. So he will add more details in the product backlog item. Product backlog item in the sense it can be user story or epic or MMF, whatever it is. And as part of the high level estimation, the product owner can come up with t-shirt size sizing. Sometimes we follow the t-shirt sizing like large, small, XL. So those are like roughly estimated because the team itself is not going to estimate. We are not adding detail. We are not going to be very specific. So they just put it in a way, okay, this is a large piece of work. This is a small piece of work. This is something extra large. So that's how they make it. And once the team is involved, it could be in a position to, make it small. That's why during the product backlog refinement, you add details and estimate and order 2 items into product backlog. In the product backlog, the product owner is responsible for the content and prioritization. So he can, whenever you try to add details, that product owner's responsibility is to put the details, like let's say user stories, they have to put that in place. The development team, which will perform the work and responsible for all estimates. So the estimation comes to the next step. How it comes is based on the story point, right? So before going to the story points, you will have to look into the definition of ready. Let's say a product owner has brought something, a piece of work, or you can say that a user story. All we need to do is double check, does the development team understand the customer requirements? Okay, so if there is a user story, so you need to understand the requirement, what needs to be delivered. So it has to be clear, precisely mentioned as in the user story, and you should have all the necessary details in a written format so that you can refer and get a good understanding of it. So that needs to be checked before you take it into a consideration to develop. And then the second one, are the expected result and acceptance criteria clarified? So sometimes, it can be, there can be some possibility like, okay, the requirement is clear, but, the acceptance criteria wasn't, prepared, or maybe it's not put in place. But we need to have an expectation of the actual end result or the acceptance criteria clarified. It can be anything. Sometimes the requirement is clear, but you can't really take it to production without any performance or security. Those things can be involved. So that's a hidden thing as you might miss. So we need to check whether we are meeting the expected outcome or not. So that's why we have the second point that needs to be in place. So whenever there's a user story, the second point you need to consider is, does it have a acceptance criteria clarified? If it is yes, then yeah, good. And then is it possible to deliver the item in one sprint? This is one of the major things. So as I told you, different companies will have different standards. Some companies have 1 week sprint, some companies 2 week sprint, 3 week sprint. Let's say we are working on a 2 week sprint. Just imagine that if there is a piece of work which is big, but if you haven't thought about, oh, this is going to, overlap one sprint, that means we should have a second thought to break down into small pieces and, try to accommodate within a sprint. Scrum framework doesn't, recommend to have a large piece of work which can go beyond a sprint. That's why we need to ensure before it comes to a sprint, the user stories were small enough to commit and whether it can be completed within one sprint or not. And the third one is fourth one is have risk, dependency, environment be clarified. So these are the main things again. So what is the risk involved in that particular user story? What is the dependency involved? Because why I'm saying it's important is when let's say within your team, you have got an integration testing that is part of a different team. Your dependency is with other team. They might not commit the same work in the same sprint. So we need to have a thought, because once you're ready, our best regulations, the recommendation is once your user story is done, it should be functionally working and it should meet all the acceptance criteria and it should be ready for delivery. So if you have a dependency with other team, you can't deliver it because you haven't done the testing. It's still in pending case. You can't make sure that, oh, it works. It can work. But that's where you need to sort out the dependency. If you have a dependency, you can raise the things. Oh, we have a dependency. Are we sure the other team is also working on the same thing? Can we do the integration testing with the other team? How we can sort it out. So these are all the upfront plan that we do. That's why we have that as part of the definition of ready. And environment, of course, we need to have different test environment, testing environment, dev environment, pre-prod, whatever the environment which is necessary. So that also need to be confirmed before you start the user stories. So when there is the main point, what I'm trying to say here is when you get a user story, based on the user story, check the requirement is clarified for you guys. Okay, is that well written and you understand not only one particular person. If there is anyone have any sort of doubts, they have to raise the thing. As you guys are into testing, you can ask different questions. based on your testing aspects, scenarios, because the testers have always have a positive cases and negative cases. So there will be a lot of questions can be asked by the testers. So that's where the product owner or anyone can give more clarity, and the developers can also write the code based on the question what you asked, right? So we have a strong say there. So whenever you see a user story, make sure the requirement is clear. Ask the questions and make it more precisely well defined. So that's important. And the expected results, and is it possible to complete in one sprint, and the rest dependency environment we clarified. So these are the 4 points that you can have more points. This is the basic things that what we need to have as part of definition upgrade. Any questions? Good. Moving to the next. Oh, sorry. Okay, so as I told you, the once the product backlog is put in place, now we are going to the sprint planning. That's the starting point of a sprint. So when you start a sprint, as I told you, we have to deliver. We can deliver in the increment resulting for the upcoming sprint. How will the work needed to deliver the increment be achieved? So these are things that we need to decide. For a shorter sprint, the event is usually shorter. The planning session can be shorter. Like let's say if it is a week time, so you might not spend a day to plan. It can be 1 or 2 hour session. So that, and again, if it is a 2 week sprint, you can have like 2 hours, 3 hours session. That depends because you don't have to plan much. We are not following waterfall style. So it's like very minimal things what we are committing as part of the sprint commitment, because majority of the main things are already in place. All we need to do is a task out and check the dependencies, check how it can be implemented, whether the architect is fine or not. As a testing point of view, oh, okay, can I test it? Can I have all the scenarios in place before I test? Is that clear for you guys? So those are things that we have already defined. So the planning is mainly on to creating task and estimating it. That's how the planning goes. So it should be based on the 2 sprint cycle. It should be very smaller and it has to be time boxed. This particular part, maximum of 8 hours for 1 month sprint. So that's the main thing they're saying. If it is more, if it is a month, it says 8 hours. That means a day. Let's say imagine if you have a week time, just spend 1 hour time, and then that's fine. Planning is collaborative work of the entire Scrum team. So it's not basically, oh, tester has to plan it separately, developer has to plan separately, or the product owner has to plan separately. So we work together on one user story and plan it like, okay, this user story have got all the information, task it out, I'm going to work it on. So that's the priority. So we'll start with this. That's the planning. We all work together to get it done. The work to be done in the sprint is planned at the sprint planning. So that means we have, let's say I can commit 10 user stories, and that will be taken into the consideration to complete. That's where we commit the items. As part of planning overall, what we are going to do is, based on the priority, we pull in the items as part of the sprint. Based on our velocity, we commit and we task it out, and we make sure that everything is ready to deploy. That's make it very simple. No detailed discussions, because those discussions will eat all of our time. So always try to, if there is no clarity, oh, there's no clarity, can we pull it back? Because we can't really commit. because let's say we have a lot of unknown, a lot of discussion required, a lot of technical details required, so it's not actually ready for sprint. So as part of planning, create the task, make it simple, and put it in the sprint. We can start working on it. So how do you estimate the user stories as part of a sprint planning for a user story? So basically, these are the three elements that you need to look for. How much is known about the task, dependency, how much work or effort required. So that's where you put the Fibonacci series. So let's say, from my experience, I never go beyond 13. Sometimes I just stop in between 8. Because sometimes, that depends. If your team is okay with go beyond 13, and then you have to keep that standard for a while. But if you're starting with a new team, so let's say I can put it as, okay, this particular combination is 1, and almost everything, almost none, half of a day is 2. So I can stick with the standards like this and make sure, and I can estimate the user stories. For an example, I can say I got a user story. Let's say it's a form filling and submitting an application. So it has got 10 fields. So you know very well about the fields, and there's no dependency with any other team. All we need to do is, as a user, you need to enter the data and submit it. And the effort is something like, it's very less than 2 hours, create all the fields. And the developer has to write a function to save it or submit. And you have to, test all the 5 fields, right? If it is less than 2 hours, then it's all good. Okay, let's go for 1. It's so easy task. If it is more than half a day, and if you know almost everything and dependency almost none, then you can go for 2. That's how you estimate the value. And so let's say one person says it's 2, and another person says that, oh, it could be 3. So in such case, how do we fix to a certain value? In such case, what we have to do is, we have it here. Customer reads the user story, so we always have, as I told you, ask all the questions, and the team estimates says that, oh, let's say Oscar said 1, and Jevin told 4, and I don't know other name who is in the call, but someone X is saying 5. Because we all three have a different estimate, because we have different perspective and different understanding. So that we need to go for a discussion again to check we are aligned or not. But let's say I said 1, and I'm going to say that, oh, it's going to be very easy because I know all the things. And this guy says 5. And I have to explain why it is easy. And I should convince this X guy saying that it is easy, I can help you out, and things are easy, so it doesn't look like that complex. It can be reverse as well. My thought of that particular value 1 can be wrong, and this guy can say, hey, you didn't think of something hidden there. It's so complex. I have to write an algorithm that has to be tested, and it will take so much of time. You're thinking about the output, which is so easy, but there is a huge development work going on. It can be complex to test. So then he will try to convince me. So it has to go to one by one and get the discussion elaborated and come into a common point. And then you have to estimate it again. And once you do that, you will all come into a point saying that, oh, it's actually in between 1 and 5 and 4. And it could be 4. Sometimes it can be 1. Sometimes it can be 5 as well. So sometimes when you get into this point, you might end up having 5 as a value. Okay, so the story point would be like 5. Let's see this. If he says 5, that means almost nothing. How much is known about the task? Almost nothing. Dependency, there are few dependency. How much work effort? It's few days. So it's sometimes, it is not recommend to have 5, because we always, the Scrum framework recommend to have a very lean, small piece of user stories. It should be more or less like to be, almost everything known, almost none, half a day, or something unknown, some dependency up to 3 days. So in such case, if your story point is 5, think that it's big and try to split that into break down into 2 user stories so that you can make it simpler and easier to test and easier to develop, and it makes the work easier. If it is 2, then it's all good to go. If it falls under 8 and 13, nothing, it's too risky to commit as part, because we are going to commit the sprint. That's our responsibility to deliver. So if you commit with nothing about the requirement, dependency more than you have to go through several things to follow people to get it done, and around a week, it's a huge piece of work that you will be ending up not delivering that particular piece of work. So that's why it is recommended always make it to point 1 to 3. So at least you will be thriving to achieve the goal. From my point of view, keep the standards, limit the Fibonacci series like 1 to 13, and keep within this limit, and have an agreement with the team member saying that, hey, can we have it between 1 and 13 so that we can track easily, so that we get, oh, okay, this is something big, small, medium, we can get that size. Once we cross 5, we can come into a decision, can we cut down that and split it into 2 user stories so that it will be easy for us to deliver. If it is 8 and 13, that means we have to work on the requirement more, sort out more dependency, and how we need to think of more lean. So that's the important part of the planning. So when you do planning, of course, you have to come to the user story estimation. And this is the basic thing that you need to be very clear, because any mistakes, or if you do anything really wrong, then you will end up in a way that you won't be able to deliver the committed items. That's actually not a good deal for the organization. It can, it can have an after effect, because we are supposed to deliver frequently. So, and even for the first time, if you make a mistake, try to improve this part so that you will be able to deliver frequently, and you will be able to foresee how much you can commit. So once you story point properly, and if you started committing it as part of the sprint, and if you are able to deliver it, so you will be able to calculate your velocity within 2 or 3 sprints. Let's say how you calculate the velocity. For an example, I have taken 5 user stories as part of my sprint 1, and each user story have got 1 story point. And the next sprint, I have committed 5 user story, and that was also having each story have got 1 story point. That means now we have got 10 story points in 2 sprints. And the third sprint also the same, 5 user stories, and each one have 1 story point. So that means 15. So that means we are going to calculate basically 15 divided by 3, and our velocity is 5. In the 4th sprint, we can say that, oh, okay, our velocity is 5. Okay. And based on that, we can commit. We are not going to commit more than that. but we can try to improve our velocity. Maybe sometimes, you get 3 as well. That's why I'm saying you have to take the average for all the 3 sprints and come up with the value that is called velocity. Every sprint will not have the same user story with one story point. Some sprints will have 2 user story with 5 story points. Some stories will have 2 story point. So that's why wait for 3 sprints, do the story point properly, and then take the average of 3 sprints, and then you divide it by the sprint, you'll get the velocity. And the 4th sprint you can commit based on your velocity. Anybody have any questions? Are you sure, guys? You guys don't have questions?
So also
All right.
the velocity means, am I audible?
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So velocity basically means the total value of story points divided by the number of sprints, right?
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
So basically, when you're freshly starting a Scrum team, and if you are new to the team, so if you don't know the velocity, then what you have to do is do the story pointing work, okay, and commit roughly based on your capacity, estimate. Okay, I guess that this can be achieved because we have this right. These details, we know things. Sorry, sorry. We know something about the feature dependencies is that less than 2 hours, half a day, something we know about the feature, some dependency up to 3 days. So based on that, we can commit for the couple of sprints. But you have to do the story point properly. So once you put that, then you can take the average of 2 sprints or maybe 3 sprints, or maybe you can take 4 sprints as well. And then you can come to a point, oh, okay, this is how our trend is. We are delivering like 6 story points in each sprint. That means that's our velocity. So for the next sprint, the upcoming sprint, we can commit based on, okay, this is our average, that's our velocity, or we can commit only 6 story points. When you do the planning, so let's say we have these many small stories. So I have my velocity as 10. But if you add up all these user stories, 3 plus 2, 5, and 6, and still you have got 4 more story points that can be accommodated as part of the sprint. So you can pull 2 more user stories with 2 story points. That means you get extra 4. So in a way, like my velocity is 10, and I can commit 10 story points, right? So you don't have to commit so much or less. Why we are based on velocity we are committing the sprint is because on the basis of hours, it can go wrong. Let's say I say that, oh, this user story is like 10 hours, but it can't always take we can't stick with 10 hours because it can have some variance, or it can take 12 hours, 13 hours, or sometimes it can go for 6 hours. So that's very standard when you stick with the hours. It can always fail, even half an hour it will fail. But the Fibonacci series, like you can see that it starts with 1 and 2, and then it is actually 2 and 3, and then when it is going big and big, it's 3 to 5, because this is very defined. You know everything, and it's actually achievable. And this is also almost like close to be almost everything, so it's achievable. And this is something unknown. The word itself saying something, but something I don't know as well. So if I commit with hours, like let's say 10 hours, there is something unknown you can't complete with hours. So that's why we stick with the Fibonacci series. This falls under between 3 and 5. So in between we have a buffer period of 4, right? If we commit with the hours, we are sticking with the hours. 100 hours, we have to finish. Whatever thinks it's a failure. But this is something, okay, we assume that something is known, something is unknown. So it can be between 3 and 4. So we have got a buffer time to complete it to accommodate those something unknown. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay.
So Oscar, one more thing. So who is actually deciding how many velocities can we accept or something? So who is the deciding person?
Team. No one is going to enforce you to commit, oh, this is your velocity, because the story points are done by the team, the development team. So this is what it is. This part,
Yeah.
the development team is going to decide that, not the
Okay.
product owner, not the scrum master. We
Okay.
as a team, because we are working on these stories, right? Not the product owner or the scrum master or
Okay.
anyone out of the team. So, but when you commit that, when you say that this is our velocity, the product owner, scrum master, as a team, we decide, okay, this is our velocity. That's how we conclude it. At the end of the day, you are going to do the story pointing and you're going to work on the real work. I mean, the development, testing, designing, whatever things, right? The
Okay.
product owner's responsibility is something on, defining the requirement, and the scrum master is like trying to help us to achieve the goals. So
Okay.
as a team, it's our responsibility to find the velocity as well, because we story point it, we do the work, we know what is the weightage of that particular work, and we know how much we can commit as well. Like, let's say, for example, how much um, a team can work together. As an individual, you know the capability of how long you can walk, maybe a kilometer or two. So you decided it yourself. Okay, I can walk 1 kilometer within 10 minutes. That's how we commit. But similarly, the same example, as a team, oh, within a week, we can deliver 6 story points. That's how we
Okay.
commit. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Oscar. Thank you.
The questions. Good. Now, when you finish your planning, we will be moving to daily Scrum. As I guess this will be a easy one for everyone. Everyone would have come across this daily stand-up. So this, the main intention of this meeting is not a status update. It's many team members misunderstood this. It's not a status update. It is not a kind of reporting session. It's actually sharing information and providing visibility across the team. That's it. It's giving visibility what we are doing. So the transparency, that's an important point we need to think. That's where the agile mindset, it's not reporting. Nobody is actually hierarchy here. Even the product owner or scrum master, it's all flat. We all work together as a team. So there's no reporting or status update. It's actually providing visibility, sharing the information, sharing the huddles, or trying to get support. Don't consider as a status call always. Daily stand up is all about, as it is mentioned very clearly here, what I accomplished yesterday, what will I do today, what are the obstacles or impediments as part of my task. So mainly what we need to do is, hey, the real time is I've been working on this. It was good. There's no issue. I can deliver it on time. Then it's all good. So that means everyone knows that your part is going well. So there is no chance of slippages in the sprint. And you can tell something about I'm going to work on this. So if there is anyone related to that particular task, they will also have an idea. Oh, this guy is going to start working on it. Maybe I have to do my work as well, so that it was not going to impact his work. Because once I say you guys are tester and the developer might have partially done the code and then said, okay, it is good and go for ready for it. And when you say something that that you are going to start the test, he will get an idea. Oh, it's not done yet. It's partially done. It's not ready. It's not ready in the test environment because you haven't merged the code. So those kind of information will be shared in the stand-up. It will be very quick. It can't exceed more than 15 minutes. So that's why we stick with these three things. What I did yesterday, what I'm going to do today, what is the obstacle? Because and the main point is the obstacles, the impediments for today. Because when you start working, you shouldn't have any obstacles which can stop your work. So that's why when you share this, the Scrum Master will jump in and say that, oh, what I can do to help him to proceed further without having any issue. So that will be a responsibility for the Scrum Master. It's not necessary to say that, oh, I have an obstacle. You have to go work it out. You can work it out if you can solve it, but if you can't solve it, escalate or highlight this to the Scrum Master. He can work it out for you. Okay, so basic thing, what's the difference here? It's not a status report call. It's not a reporting session. It's providing information. It's gathering information. It's providing transparency. It's giving visibility to achieve our commitment, what we have committed as part of the sprint. That's the main intention. Many organizations say that, oh, it's a daily status call. People can, mislead to mislead as to think of, oh, it's a status call. Who are the participants and who can discuss here is also matters. Let's say we have a team with Scrum Master, Product Owner, and the development team. There could be possibility of having a project manager, architect, product manager. So this meeting is available for everyone. Everyone can participate. But who is going to have a discussion here is only the dev team. Maybe the product owner and the Scrum Master, dev team in the sense developer, tester, designers, whoever is part of development. Rest of the people, they observe the things. They're not going to ask you. They can ask questions, but mostly it is recommended to listen and see what is going on. Once after the stand-up, they can come up with things and say that, oh, how can I help you to get this done? Because we are looking forward for some deliverables that needs to be delivered as part of the sprint, and it's urgent. And if it is urgent, they can talk to the product owner and the Scrum Master, because we have already set the priority for the sprint. So there is no way changing anything when it is part of sprint and it is committed. Any questions on this? I hope it's a simple one, so you guys need not have any question. This another important one, the sprint review. So once your planning is done, you will be having a daily stand-up call, and you're going through the progress. And the sprint review comes end of the sprint. What we are going to do as part of the sprint review? The sprint, the Scrum team and stakeholders inspect what was done in the sprint and give each other feedback. Nothing but about the user stories, what we have done, and we can share the feedback of that particular functionality. if there is a feature, you can demonstrate it to the product owner, and he can give feedback. Oh, this should have been in a better way, this way, or we should think about the next level, how we can change this. Maybe we can think robustically and implement a different feature. We can. So those kind of feedbacks comes from sprint review. So it's always to have a sprint review, and you can give a visible demonstration to product owners and stakeholders who can participate in that meeting. It's giving the actual delivery. They can see it literally, and this is important to have at the end of the sprint. And the development team demonstrate the work that is done and answer questions about the increment. So what about the increment, in the sense, some features, like let's say it's a big piece of work, we have cut down into small piece of work, right? Small user stories. So some user stories can't have the full feature. So it's partially developed, developed in the sense it's not actually non-functional. It's functional, but partially. The end-to-end cycle is not yet done. So we can say that, oh, okay, we have achieved like 20% of the complete feature, and the following sprint will have our incremental feature that will be delivered. So we can have a discussion on, okay, I assume that this whole feature can be completed within a couple of sprints. Those discussions can be part of the sprint review. And the development team discusses what went well during the sprint, problems, and how problems were solved. So this is one main thing. It's not a retrospective thing, it's a sprint review. So we should not confuse it. It's mainly we have to take a deep dive to how we resolved and how we went through the things. So we're just going to give you a upfront list of things that we need to discuss as part of the retrospective as well. So you can discuss all those problems and how it was solved as in the development cycle. And the entire group collaborates on what to do next. So this is another point. So once you're done with the sprint, and you need to think about, okay, what actually need to be done for the following sprint. And that will give visibility for the entire development and the product owner to start thinking about the next. And the product owner explains what product backlog items have been done and what has not been done. He is the person who is going to accept what we have done. Let's say we developed, we have written the code, tested, and everything done. End of the day, the product owner will mark it as done. Okay, I'm happy. This met the expected outcome. Or maybe the stakeholder can say that, oh, beautiful, this is working, this is what we need. And by that time, we say that, oh, this is done. That's where, that's the end of the, user story cycle. So done means this is a high level thing. Is the code done? If all done, we put it in live. It's not that done. So sometimes we don't really think about fully functional going to live. So we have to be ready. The user story is actually built vertically, and that will be a functional one. It should be a functional one. It shouldn't be horizontal. It shouldn't be non-functional. There are some possibilities where you guys can get non-functional work items. Let's say a user story can be created for security bugs. How we'll say that, oh, it's ready and go for it. It's not functional. That is a different cases. Sometimes it can be a performance. Those can be, verified in production. Like performance only, obviously you can only verify that in production because the load of of load is different in production or maybe in the test. So non-functional work items are different, but when you come to the functional user stories, that means it should be having an output for each user story. It can't be partially done and it can't be an unusable one for the customer. So whenever it is done, that means it has to be in a situation that it can go to the live and it can be useful for the customer. That's where we say it's done. And it should have come across all the things, including testing. It shouldn't be untested and goes to production. So as the development process, we have to follow that, and then we say that is done. We have got, as we saw earlier, we have got definition of begin. We can have definition of done as well. So that's, again, depends what list of things that we need to put in as definition of done. For an example, I can tell you guys, is that fully functional? Yes, that can be put as definition of done. It is tested or not? Yes, it is tested, so that we can put it as definition of done. Is that covered with unit test cases? As a developer has to do that, it's part of development process, so that can be marked as definition of done. And is that peer reviewed? And that can be also a definition of done points. And sometimes as a tester, you guys will be writing test cases, you will be writing test scenarios, and you have to test all the scenarios. So you have to do the peer review with the other team members saying that, hey, I've done all this testing and these are the scenarios I have tested. Is that okay? Yes, that sort of reviews have to be there before you say done. So when you do the sprint review, you can have the list of definition of done points as part of the user story, and you can sit with the team members saying that, oh, okay, this story is done. Just imagine as a checklist. Oh, we have done the testing, we have done the integration testing, we have covered all the scenarios, we have covered unit tests. It's fully functional now. So that means it's done. If any of those cases are not done, then that means it's not done. Really, it's not done. That's where we fall here. Okay, it's not done because we haven't covered the unit test cases. Some of the scenarios are not covered, but the developers say that I have done all the codes and it will be working. But as a tester, we have to ensure, okay, this is done, but I have few more scenarios to test. We can't take it to production. So that's where we have to be little open and we have to be very transparent, saying that it's not yet done. I have to complete the test. There are a few other scenarios, and I can see that unit test is not covered. I can't see the results. And sometimes you can say that, oh, I have not done the peer review. It's not good to go to the production. Okay. So this are the example where we have got code, and again, it depends upon what the team is and what is the maturity of the team. Some organization have standards, some organization might not have all the standards. So it depends. This is just an example. So code is pair programmed or peer reviewed. So this part, pair programmed, sometimes some companies, they might not do it, but peer review is mandatory. Coding standards are met. So that's again different, can be different between companies. The coding standards can be different. So they might have a set of criteria. Some startup companies will have different standards. Corporate will have different standards. So those things. But if you have got the coding standards as the definition of done list, so we have to meet that. And code coverage of new code, that means we need to check all this aspect and check whether it's actually completed. This percentage can be vary from company to company. Some companies expect more than 90%, then that should meet. So if it is not meeting, then it's not done. The user story can't be marked as done. So change code is refactored to support the new functionality. It can be there. It's not mandatory sometimes. If you want, we can have it. All code is checked in a CI build pass, all unit test pass, all acceptance test pass, UAT test pass, accepted by product owner. So that's where the entire definition of done comes through. So this is an example. You guys can take a look. And you can suggest in your projects, okay, we should have a definition of done for these cases. Definition of done sprint increment is deployed on production-like environment. So that means, it should be when you will have a pre-prod environment, or different companies have different terms, test environment, pre-prod, production-like environment. So whatever the environment, it has to go there. So that's how we make sure, okay, version 1.1 is ready, and it has all these list of user stories. And that's how we measure the increment as well. Oh, okay, 20% of work is done and it is ready for release. And non-functional test process like usability, performance, scalability, reliability, security. So because we can't really do that in the test environment, if you have a pre-prod like production-like environment, you can do that test in particular environment and say that, okay, this is done as part of our sprint commitment, and that's sprint increment as well. And another myth is saying that, oh, Agile means no documentation. The Agile doesn't say that there's no documentation, minimum documentation. Anything which is spending more time and which is not useful, it's not advised to have it. So if the document is required, make it minimum, spend little time, and make it usable. That's where we need it. So if there is any documentation necessary, make it, put it in a place, and ensure before you create a document or start working on a document, ensure that it's actually usable and valuable for the future or at any point in time. Okay. Questions? Moving on to the sprint retrospective. That's the last part of our Scrum. So it's again, even though it is last part, as we have learned about Agile principle, inspect and adaptation. I guess you guys remember that. So that's the main part. So how we improve ourselves. That through the retrospective, we discuss several things, and we try to inspect whatever things we have done, whatever we come across, how we can resolve that, how we can improve ourselves. This is the right place to discuss those things and improve for the upcoming sprint and going forward. So the first point is inspect how the last sprint went with regards to people, relationship, process, and tools. It's and this is the main point. So this is not only for the technical things. It can be anything. It can be anything. So that's why it is like people, relationship, process, and tools. If you don't like a tool, and it took a lot of time to work it out. So if you don't like the tool, that is not very valuable for us, then you can raise that in the retrospective and say that that tool is not really good. It's not helping us. And process, as we have the Scrum framework, if you feel that anything which is going not well, we can change the process, how we can fine tune the process. All we need to do is follow the principle and change the process. The relationship is between, always you need to consider the collaboration and good rapport with the team. Same motivation, responsibility, shared responsibility, peer reviewing. It's all these are coming with the relationship things. So we need to look after that as well. So if there is any change, we need to talk with openness. You can be very transparent, but make it light, no offense. So those kind of discussion can be also part of Implement these improvements in the next sprint in the adaptation to the inspection of the Scrum team itself. Like, you can talk about the flaws and think about how we can improve it. So let's say, for example, you guys have a testing, and which is going to be a very time-consuming work. You have to do the regression for several areas. If you have got some approach for automation, you can say that, oh, it's better to automate few things, at least for minimum cases. There are minimum cases that needs to be a mandatory execution, and we can automate that at the initial stage. Those kind of improvements when you face a lot of challenges working on the manual test, you can bring that. That's one example. So these kind of discussion, you can bring that as part of a retrospective. Scrum team to inspect itself and create plans for improvements to be done during this next sprint. So this is basically not an individual aspect. You can share the individual aspect as well, but you can also think about this, the whole team, how we can improve. Occurs after the sprint review and before sprint planning. Don't try to skip any of this. After the why it is recommended after the review. When you do the reviews, you might get a lot of insight. How you went through the last sprint and how it was. Was it a roller coaster? And did we have any hurdles? What are the challenges we went through? So these are all the insight you will get it as part of the review. You'll have a light discussion, and then when it comes to the retrospective, you will never forget anything, and immediately you can discuss about, oh, okay, this is a thing we were doing good. Oh, this is where we were having a lot of challenges, so we need to improve that area. So those points can be captured very easily. Leads to ongoing improvement of the team's work mode. So that's the intention of the retrospective. So the improvement is the main goal for retrospective. Scrum team plans ways to increase product quality by adapting the definition of done as appropriate. So what we are going to do is, there are so many tools available for retrospective. This is the basic things: continue doing, stop doing, start doing. There are several things like starfish, and you can follow the. I couldn't recall. There are few other retrospective techniques that you can follow. Try not to do with the same format again and again, because from my experience, I've seen teams are getting bored of retrospective because they say that, oh, we are trying to do every week, but it's not effective. Sometimes people are not sharing the information. Sometimes people are not interested in doing retrospective. Sometimes the retrospective action points are not solved. Let's say, for example, continue doing, stop doing, start doing. Continue doing, everyone says that, yeah, we worked very well. It was a good development, teamwork. Stop doing something we need to stop doing. So we need to stop that, or you might need, for example, there was a missing CI build or something like that. So we need to ensure that it should happen. So we need to stop the manual process and start doing the automated process, the build process. But it's an action item to start doing because we have a lot of infrastructure involved in it. So let's say we have to bring a DevOps engineer, that will be an action item. It will be there quite a long period. So we need to understand how fast we can do it. Those things are basically sometimes the Scrum Master job to ensure that, all these are sorted out. But once the action item is not solved, team get bored. So it's better to make it in a way, okay, have a timeline for that. Oh, this issue can be resolved as soon as possible. So which is actually good. If we solve it immediately, we can improve our development, right? And if it is big, we escalate to the Scrum Master saying that can we get this done within this time frame, so that we can improve ourselves within this time period. So that's how we need to discuss. It's not simply, hey, go get it done. We'll never solve it. Don't simply raise the issue and wait for it. We need to work together and understand how we can solve it together. So that's how we need to work to, improve ourselves. Try not to hesitate to share the information there. I've seen like a lot of people doing like continue doing as good, and they come up with start doing as well, stop doing. Sometimes they hesitate to say that because it's involved with other individuals or sometimes, but try to put it in a nicer way, like, as a team, we're not focusing on any individual here. So as a team, we need to achieve it, because at the end of the day, it's committed by all team members, not one individual person. So bring them into a team. You take the responsibility as a team and put it together and support each other and say that, hey, let's stop doing this, and next time let's start doing something else. We can work together to do it. What are the action items which comes out of that retrospective? Try to resolve it. If it is out of your hand, escalate that to Scrum Master. Let him go find it and bring a solution. And when you do that continuously for multiple sprints, so you will see the progress, how we have improved from sprint 1. Let's say, for example, if you have worked 25 sprints, you can look after the sprint 1, how much you have committed and how much you have delivered, and the sprint 25 will have a different output. So that's a long journey. How you can't improve within a sprint or 2, but when you make this practice again and again, then you will improve yourself in the development and delivery. Good. That's the last one and wrap up. So after the sprint retrospective, you just follow the same cycle again in each sprint. I hope that this session helped you guys. And this is the last one. I would like to share that the Agile change curve. So it's not a easy journey, because it takes a lot of things that you should be aware, understand, commit, act, be. So this is about not listening to some practices and leave it like that. You have to take it as a responsibility and be it and start doing it. Put more involvement when you are in the process of development, and try to involve all these principles, practices as part of your development. Then you will find the improvements and you will be achieving in a way, okay, we have made something bigger and better. So as part of this session, what we learned is Scrum pillars, values, product owner, Scrum Master team responsibilities, events like backlog refinement, sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective. Those are the artifacts and the artifacts of definition of that. So definition of done and ready. So these are the things what we have learned. Yes, so this is again, the framework is explained. There are several other topics we can go precisely, maybe in future. But if you guys have any questions, you can ask me now.
Yeah, hi, Oscar.
Yeah.
Can I know what are the minimum documentation that has been followed in the Agile? So usually I've seen the test plan has been not followed, right? So, and other than that, like, and I've also seen the retrospective, they usually in some of the projects, they put it in the Excel sheet, and some they don't record it. So, yeah, what do you, what do you feel like? What are the minimum documentation?
Yeah, so you have two questions. Think within yourself what documentation we need. Like so many teams, you know, they don't really rely on documentation. From my experience, what I've seen is some documents are necessary, some documents are not necessary. So documents such as, okay, so I have a feature which is actually developed a couple of sprints ago, and you have an architect design, a small piece of design document. You don't have to work in a robust, like in a beautiful detail level design unless it is required. If it is required, let's say it's a complex system, complex workflow, then you need that minute details because it's going to be very confusing for a new one who is joining in future, or maybe another team member who is joining, or maybe if you are going to make changes, you can't find the impacted areas. So what I recommend to do is you have to think wisely why I'm writing this or creating a document. So unnecessary things you don't have to minimize the things. Don't spend so much time which is not going to be useful for you. If it is useful, think in a way, oh, okay, this looks very complex. I should document this so that it can be a reference for everyone. It will be helpful for everyone. So in such case, you can ask, okay, that's a must. You know, that's a foundation for that particular feature. So you should follow that. And later on, you don't have to really work on several things. I mean, if you have a new feature coming in as part of that, you have to mark it as this are the changes. You can make small modification and update it. That's it. Don't write a essay or big documentations, stories. You don't have. That's one question. Hope I answered for the documentation. Is that your challenge going on?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, we have to analyze whatever is required in the project and then do it. Yeah.
So sometimes when you work as a team, everyone might not align with you. So that's where the challenge comes, because when you might think, oh, it is necessary. Sometimes you might think it's not necessary. So that's where you have to bring up the discussion somewhere in retrospective, saying that, hey, we are missing something. We need to improve this way. I can see a lot of problems. So when you have a problem, and you will understand what is the importance of that, right? So you can discuss that with the team and get a general opinion, come into a common agreement, and then you can start working on that. So let's say documentation, if there's a new feature coming in, which you see that it is a complex, can we put it as important a point as a documentation required for this user story? Put it as part of planning itself, we can put it. So it's not an individual person pushing someone to do that. As a team, everyone have to understand that. So if you think that it is necessary, you have to influence the team to say that, okay, guys, I'm saying that this is something important, and try to convince them. And then if they buy it, yeah, let's do it together. That's one thing.
Yeah.
The second question is, sorry.
No, I just said thank you.
Oh, okay, all right. And the second question, retrospective, I know that it's commonly known issue. Several teams does that. Even today, to be honest, I've seen a comment somewhere online saying that, oh, retrospective, it was happening for a while and then it's not effective. So when they put it in the Excel, make it in a common place where everyone can access it. It's not only writing it down, putting it in a place, and leave it like that. So even if it is in Excel, it doesn't matter, but you have to use the same again in the next retrospective, saying that, oh, what are the action items what we were planning to do as part of the last retrospective? Are we done with that? Are we solving that? Is that solved to take it further to the next sprint? So because if you can solve it within that sprint or maybe in the next sprint, so it is going to be an advantage for us, no matter where they put it. But the concept is try to bring that up, display that in a common forum and say that, oh, these are the challenges that we need to solve. You can set the priority for that. Some issues can be solved immediately. Let's say, oh, we need to go for a unit test case that developers has to do it. That can be done because they can do as part of the development cycle. Sometimes, you might say that, oh, this platform is not really good. We need to change the tool. That goes with organization level. We have to buy tools. They have to spend money on it. So that might take a little more time. So until that, we need to balance it. So we need to tweak and tackle those, dependent challenges and independent challenges. So what we can resolve within us. But it is not that we need to get rid of that and we don't want to talk about it. We have to capture that in a place and put it in a forum, and we have to make a reminder within ourselves and say that how we can solve that. And try to, if even if it is an Excel, try to talk about what, try to bring 2 points that can be solved in Excel, at least one. That's how we progress. We don't want to fix all the problems over the night. Take one each, and one problem is solved. That's how we progress. That's what Agile is also. Take it minimum and try to achieve it. The same thing applies for a retrospective as well. So as a team member, if you feel that, oh, this Excel, I don't think it's not good, but you can recommend, can we put it in a common place where everyone can access, and we can, you can recommend, can we have a couple of action items and try to resolve it next sprint? It is not going to be an individual responsibility. It is going to be a team responsibility. That is how we need to pitch it, so that everyone will be taking responsibility. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, that was good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All good. You can ask any questions, no worries. Even silly questions, that's fine. I was about to ask you guys, are you guys clear with the story point thing stuff? Is that clear, guys? Anybody? Okay, I consider that as yes, it's okay. You guys understood it very well, I guess. Cool.
Oscar,
Yeah.
one quick question. Yeah, for example, regarding the velocity, consider, for example, for one sprint, for the first sprint, say for the first sprint, if we are having the velocity, say 7, does that mean the sprint is gonna be tough since it's giving the value 7? Like it's not a simple sprint, easy sprint against a sprint which is having a story point value as 3. So how you say the difference between these two, like a sprint with velocity 7 and maybe take it as 10 and 3, or maybe 5, 10 and 5, two different sprints, one with velocity 10 and one with 5.
We can't have two different velocity for two different sprint.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, the velocity is going to be pretty standard unless you make some improvements that you can believe that or you can achieve it. The velocity is, let's say I found a velocity, found my team's velocity as 10 in sprint 3. In sprint 4, I'm going to commit the same. The sprint, the sprint 4 will also have velocity 10, and it is not going to change for a while.
Okay.
For a while, in the sense, why for a while? Because every sprint we will try to improve. If you see that there is some improvements in our commitment, in our delivery, let's say for an example, we delivered 5 user stories up to
Also,
5th.
you were not audible. Can you come again?
Yeah. So let's say for an example, from sprint 1 to 5, we delivered 5 user stories. In the 6th to 10th, if you have started delivering 7 stories, that means you have
That means you are?
improved from
Fine.
from your delivery aspect.
Okay,
So from
fine.
that time, you can think about how you can change the velocity, because
Okay, got it, got it.
each
So higher the value means you are improving your quality or performance.
yes, velocity is that. But when you consider the story points, if the higher the value, it is more complex, it is more difficult, it is going to consume a lot of time to deliver. So whenever you get a user story, if the story point is higher in value, try to break down into small pieces and try to bring it within 1 and 3.
Okay.
So that means it's easier to deliver.
Okay, got it, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Oscar.
No problem. Any other questions?
So if it is in terms of the t-shirt size, so one will be S, and I mean the S will be one story point. Is it like that, or it is again decided by the organization?
The user story pointing and t-shirt t-shirt sizing is different, because you know why we have t-shirt sizing is because you can't really come into a point when the requirement is an actually a preparing stage. I can roughly say that, oh, this could be a big size. I can roughly say that this could be a small size. I can say roughly a large size. Some companies, they follow the t-shirt sizing because the requirement is like that. They can't really drill down deep and check more precise details. So that's where they bring it. Okay, this mainly this t-shirt sizing is like considered for product owners. When they come to you, they say that, oh, this is kind of looking like a large. Can you just do a refinement? Can you add some more details so that we can put it in a place? Okay, this story is like 2 story point item. So that's roughly estimated. When you story point it, again, you add more details, more information added by the developers, and then it comes to a point that you can place some points for that. If you are working in a sprint, it's better to story point it rather than going for t-shirt sizing, because when you commit a sprint, you can't commit with something. Oh, we have got 10 large, 10 small, and 10 extra large. We can't commit that. But more on the other side, the product owner says that, oh, this looks like big, and maybe I can show you the share it. Be somewhere here. Can you look at this figure? The image here, they can say that, oh, this is going to be extra large, and this is large, this is small, and this is extra small. So the product owner say that looks like big, but when you story point it, you will have a precise value for that. I would recommend to have the story points when you do planning rather than having t-shirt size.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? glad that you guys asked a few questions. Last time nobody asked any questions. Okay, that's it. Thanks, guys. I took a little more time, I guess. It's more 1 hour 45 minutes. Thanks for listening to my session, and I believe it's going to be informative for you guys. Yeah, you can implement whatever you learned as part of this session. Maybe in future I can bring up something very detailed, more sessions. If you guys are interested.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Oscar. Thank you for
All right.
the informative session.
No worries.
Because the Scrum framework is going to be very helpful on practical side.
Yeah. So basically, this is, you know, this is going to be in hand. So you do the process is in your mind, and you do the regular things, and you follow the process, you follow the framework, and it will guide you for the betterment. It's always like, go take this in hand. If anything is not followed, just try to bring that up. You can volunteer these things, so it will help the entire team, not the, and you guys also can learn things. Oh, this is something, if you have a thought about, oh, how we can precisely story point it, that will help you guys to, you know, bring the sprint in under control. You don't have to flip the commitment, you don't deviate from it. So there are so many things. So take the process hand in hand, like, you know, you do the regular testing practices, and then on the other hand you follow the Scrum framework, and will help you guys.
Okay. So I guess any questions, any doubts?
One more question, Arjun.
Yeah.
Oscar, yeah, from hierarchy point of view, we can say, you know, an agile as like epic, and you have epic. The next one is feature. Then you have user stories, and then work items. So for each sprint, if we are done with a sprint, so are we targeting the user stories, or are we targeting only those work items inside a user stories?
The main point is we are targeting user stories. So the work item is basically a task, right?
Okay.
So the user stories are deliverables.
Okay.
Okay, so as you said, you know, some companies, they follow epic, and then under that immediately they put user stories as well. And
Okay.
for the user stories, they create tasks. Some companies, they don't create tasks as well, because if the team is very matured, they don't really need tasks. They just need the user story. Depends upon the maturity of the team. But let's say how we identify the progress. We create an epic, and under that multiple, let's say 10 user stories. One user story is done and it is ready for delivery. That means 10% of that epic is completed. So we always consider the user story as delivered.
So there is only one epic, or different epics will be there?
You can have multiple.
Epics.
Yeah. So that's how. So make it simple. Like, you know, the very big projects can have multiple epics. Sometimes, you know, one big epic will be like very difficult to handle more number of user stories. That's where the some companies, they add feature as well. As part of this epic, there is two other models they consider as feature, and then they put under the feature so many user stories. So that means, you know, this particular feature is completed, because under the feature we have 10 user stories, 5 are completed, 50% of that feature is done. Then the other hierarchy says that, oh, that epic is like 10% or 15% is done. So that's how they calculate the progress. End of the day, that's not really going to be helpful for us as a development team. If you focus on the user story, then you will progress it for sure. Our focus should be on the user story.
Okay, got it.
That's a good question, actually.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, good. We can wind up.
Okay, looks like everyone is clear with the session. So anyway, Oscar, thank you for that session once again. It was really informative, and thank you everyone for attending the thing. Hope it be really useful for you on practical sense. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.